So hello, I'm Carrie Rose. I'm CEO and founder of Rise at Seven. We're an agency, an SEO and a creative agency. Originally started in Sheffield. We've got offices in London and opening up in Chicago as well. We're actually very young, so we're only about 19 months old. So we launched the business just before COVID hit, really. So we only had about 4 or 5 months before COVID and all of that scenario. But we have absolutely thrown during all of this. What I've put together is a few slides to tell the story of, I guess, when I graduated uni, what I did, how I then decided. How I then decided to launch Rise at Seven, my own business, how it all went about, and then how we won some like amazing clients to where we are today. And then I'll leave plenty enough time for questions at the end. So honestly, feel free to ask as many questions as you like at the end. So some stats, we're a 19-month-old business, really, really young. To put that into context, I read a stat that for every new business that starts up in their first year, I think it's 90% fail. So that's crazy. That's a crazy stat that 90% of new businesses that start up fail in their first year. So we got through our first year. We're in our second year. We're absolutely thriving. But yeah, we're still young. We've got over that kind of like hump. And yeah, we're doing really well. The sort of clients that we work with are global or brands that want to be. So right now we're working with Pretty Little Thing. That's one of our biggest accounts in terms of what probably you guys recognize. We have PlayStation, Game, Misguided, Odeon, MyProtein, you name it. So we're working with some amazing, amazing brands. And that is like unheard of to work with that many cool brands, I guess, for an agency so young. Like when I started the business, I honestly imagined myself to be working with Tim's Tiles, like small local businesses, that sort of thing. But the fact that we're now working with brands like this is life-changing, and it's something that I personally always dreamed of, which I'll go through throughout this presentation. So we're based across UK, US, and Europe. So these stats actually I think are outdated now because we have many more clients in the US, so many more clients in Europe. So we're actually doing Germany, Spanish, and Dutch at the minute. However, our biggest focus is growing the US side. So much that we've opened a Chicago office. I haven't actually been yet over because of COVID and stuff. So we've remotely hired staff, we've onboarded staff from over in America, but it's just been absolutely wild. And we have 70 risers. So Rise at Seven basically breed risers, and we have 70 of them, and they're all absolutely crazy. So fun. Trying to like give you some examples. You might have seen Thierry, the guy in the middle. He's a lot on Twitter. The girl on the bottom left is ASOS girl Thea. So I don't know if you saw the whole Tinder ASOS thing a couple of years back that went like viral, where she got basically called horrible names on Tinder and she ended up becoming like an ASOS model. She's one of our digital PR execs that works on Pretty Little Thing and Misguided. All of them are amazing. So that's across Sheffield, London, and Chicago as well. And we won Great Place to Work certified. So what that basically means is we're still a young business, but we actually won the certificate of being one of the best places to work in the country. But that's crazy. I've had to build this business throughout lockdown, all from literally like my kitchen where I'm sat now. It's been hard. It's been a roller coaster, but the fact that we got this certified was just like incredible for us. And it's been amazing. We actually won 31 awards during this time as well. So best large content marketing agency in the world. Like I told my mum, and my mum was like, what does that mean? And I'm like, Mum, that's massive. So trying to kind of like tell that story has been crazy for us. During this pandemic and during what's been going on. But yeah, 31 awards and winning a title like that was just like the highlight really of my career. But this is what it's felt like. It's been super, this is like visualization of my life right now. Super fast paced. It hasn't slowed down. Literally from the moment that I decided to launch Rise at Seven, it's been like 500 miles an hour. And I thought there would be a time where it starts to naturally slow down. It hasn't at all. In fact, recently it's only just ramped back up again, like in terms of like really, really busy, constantly hiring. We have a new member of staff joining us every week at the minute. So it's been super fast paced. And that's not been the easiest, if I'm completely honest. But I'll tell you all the story really. So this is really where it all started. I went to University of Leeds. I studied a course called New Media. So New Media was everything from I did like building websites, bits of PR, I did animation, video editing. It's everything digital, basically. Really, really loved the course. If I'm completely honest, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in terms of marketing. So anybody that's on this call, you will, if you haven't realized it yet, you definitely will do soon. Marketing is massive. There are so many different angles you can go down in marketing. I was very similar to most people where I didn't know what angle to go down. So I kind of tried to learn as much as possible, small bits about a lot of things, if that makes sense. I graduated from uni, I got a 2-1. So, you know, I weren't a first, but I didn't do too bad, but I absolutely loved uni. But I knew at that period of time that I needed to work my goddamn arse off to ensure I stood out. Graduating from university and obviously going into the working world, you always get that pushback from employers, like, you know, you need work experience to get work experience and that sort of thing. And I knew that I didn't have anything like that. I came from a background, a little small town called Gainsborough, didn't really have anything other than I worked in Wetherspoons once. Like I worked putting pints, I did pizzas. Like that was like my, you know, 15, 16 years old when I was younger. So I knew I needed to go and get so much experience. And these are just some of the things that I did to make myself hire worthy. This was during university. I don't necessarily kind of encourage people to do free work, but there's a lot of things that you just have to do to get something written down on your CV. So you probably know that there's like a careers fair in most unis. I stood at the careers fair and handed out leaflets, you know, that sort of thing. I actually did a campaign around drugs at uni. It was just, there was loads of people kind of like putting leaflets out for it and saying, does anyone want to help us with this marketing campaign? And I thought, I want to work in marketing. I need the experience. Let me just be part of it. And I actually did really well. I went and worked at Leeds Fest as like basically ushering the artists round. That was crazy. Like I found that job online and I got paid like, I got paid like 300 quid or something like that, a free ticket. But I did everything from writing content. I wrote to agencies in Leeds at the time and said, can I write like blog content for you, like for free? It's just for work experience and stuff like that. And then I launched my own blog as well, because that's where I learned to write. That's where I learned to create content, to promote myself. I set up social media accounts. So there's so much that I did to basically make myself hire worthy. And at that moment of time, there was a marketing society similar to this, where an agency called Branded 3 came along and did a talk, very similar to what I'm doing today. And the girl at Branded 3, she very much sold the agency as like one of the best agencies in Leeds to work for. And I remember at the end of that day, I was like, I want to work for them. I got to work for them. And what I did is I went away and I tweeted the girl that came in and I said, who's really interested in the roles? So she actually tweeted like a week before that there's a role coming out for a graduate PR exec role. And back in the day in 2014, to stand out, people didn't use Twitter to kind of get a job. That's just it's not how it worked back then. You know, you had to send your CV, but I just did something different by tweeting people and said like, I really want to work there. And we started that conversation going on Twitter, and essentially I got the job. I started working at Branded 3 as a graduate digital PR exec, I think my title was, something like that. And that's where I learned absolutely everything I know about content marketing and SEO. So I guess I spent how many years? I spent 6 years at Branded 3. I absolutely loved it. During that time, I threw myself on to kind of massive accounts because I could. When you work in an agency, they work with all different kinds of brands. One of the brands that I first worked on was Ladbrokes. I didn't know anything about football. I didn't know anything about sports, but it was one of those where I learned so much. Like if I could market a gambling brand, like I could market anything. Like it's really hard to kind of market gambling brands like that. So yeah, I basically threw myself onto Ladbrokes and I ended up running it after say 3 years, something like that, running the digital PR side. So I progressed, spent the last 5 or 6 years there, and I ended up doing everything from talks. So this image is a picture of me at LinkedIn headquarters, I think it was LinkedIn headquarters in Dublin, just talking about what I do, which is mental. I got invited because people had seen my work when I was at Branded 3, and I basically just progressed. And what happened at Branded 3, there was a guy called Stephen Kenwright, this guy on the right, and he was the director there. Stephen Kenwright was one of my idols. Very, very, very clever guy. Just worked hard, very inspirational. And essentially, there was a pitch one day and he said, do you want to come with me? And I've never done a pitch before. And he said, come with us to this pitch with me and I'm sure you'll smash it. I was actually quite loud, as I am now, confident, like easy to talk to, very kind of like enthusiastic. And he said, like, Carrie, I think you'll be absolutely fine. From that moment on, they sent me to like nearly every pitch. And myself and Ken kind of got partnered up, and they sent both of us at the same time to pitches. And we had 100% pitch win rate, meaning that every single pitch we went to, we won. And that's unheard of. So we'd walk in, I would sell the dream, I had this big idea, and then he would then say, this is the results, this is what it does for the business. And he was the one that signed the deal. We had this kind of synergy going on that meant that me and him was a really, really good team. And these, I've skipped a slide here. So I guess after that, I basically learned all these skills of how to sell, how to run campaigns, how to, talk about what I do. So I started some freelancing. I did freelance on the side whilst I was at Branded 3. And at that point, I started to learn things like what I was good at, what I was crap at, why I needed people around me to do other things that I couldn't. So, I'm not the best designer, but I have an eye for art. I'm not the best project manager, but I'm not that too bad at data. So I kind of learned like, what is it that I need in terms of people around me? And I think when you're young, I was like this anyway. When I was young, I thought I could do everything. Like I thought I could run a campaign from start to end and I didn't really need anybody else. But then I guess throughout this agency process, I really realized like teamwork, how I needed other people to be able to do what I need to do. So I learned how to market myself. I learned what clients want, how to put a price on what we do, how to build a good reputation and really sell and build relationships as well. So the freelancing part of what I did over that time was really, really valuable for me to then go and start my own business. What happened was freelancing was going really well. I was actually earning more money doing freelance than I was my job at the time. And I thought to myself, maybe I should go, make a thing of this and do freelance and start, my own company. And I remember speaking to my boss at the time. We went for a breakfast. I remember I was in Sainsbury's Cafe and we went for a breakfast and I said, I'm thinking about starting a business. Like, what do you think is a good idea? Do you think and he looked at me and was like, there's a certain person that can run a business. Do you really think that's you? And kind of putting me down, making me feel like I couldn't do it kind of thing. And I always knew that they thought very highly of me, but I think running a business is a whole new level. Like they just was kind of like, do you really think that is something for you? And at that time I started to doubt myself a little bit. I felt a bit lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I remember I spent probably 6 to 8 months a bit like confused. And one of my best friends at Branded 3 is a guy called Will Hobson. And he is very kind of dramatic. His boyfriend is a TV producer. And he said, Carrie, you need to go on TV. Despite me feeling a bit lost, I was always kind of bubbly, like a big character in the office. And he was like, you really need to apply for something like Big Brother or something mad. So I actually decided to apply for The Apprentice. The Apprentice, obviously being a TV show, was also a business show. It was where people go and bring a business plan and you then obviously get on TV. So I kind of like killed two birds in one stone. Yeah. So it was one of those. And I applied for The Apprentice on a drunken night. I was a bit, drunk late at night. And the next morning I woke up and I'd been accepted on for an audition. So 40,000 people applied for The Apprentice that year. I got invited to go to London. And when I got there was like lines and lines of queues, and I'm talking thousands and thousands of people that had applied for The Apprentice. And what happens is they was brutal. It was very much like The Apprentice, where it was like, you're fired. They just like chucked you out within seconds. Like, you're not good enough. You don't look the part. Like, oh my God, it was like just absolutely brutal. And what happened is I got myself through to the final 30. That was like crazy. There were so many things where there was about 30 of us, and they basically said, one person is going to go through that door and the rest of you are going to go home, and you all have to battle it out between who's going through. So everyone was looking at each other like, oh my God, like who's that going to be? And I remember they basically said, right, you've got 60 seconds to stand forward and prove why it should be you. People were standing forward, and you all got like a number, and there's a moment where they listed like 1 to 30, and they said, right, number 2, number 7, number 11, whatever. I had number 6. And when everyone was standing forward telling their stories why they should go through that door, from raising millions themselves, saving lives, people have built products and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to go through that door. Well, basically they said, right, number 9, please. No one stepped forward. And I was like, number 9, like looking, and then I looked at the floor And my number was actually number 9, but I thought I was number 6, but it was upside down. And I was like, oh no, I look an idiot here. So I went bright red. People were starting to embarrass me. And then they went, right, go on, it's your turn. So I stood forward, and I think that level of pressure made me super nervous. But when I'm under pressure, I'm definitely fried. I stood forward and I basically pitched 60 seconds of why I should go through. And essentially they fired every single one of them on the spot, and they said, you go through. And I couldn't believe it. Made it through to the final 30. And during that process, I didn't realize that you actually have to present your business plan quite early on. So I had to create a business plan. And what I did is I went back to Branded 3, the company I worked at. I didn't tell a soul, but then I tapped Stephen Kenwright, the director of the company, and I said, really, really good friend of mine. I was like, help me. I've applied to go on The Apprentice. I've got through to the finals. I've got to do a business plan. Tell me everything you know. He taught me everything from the competitor awareness, how the industry was changing, you know, what sort of staff that I should look for, what my angle should be. So he really helped me form this business plan. I went and presented it to Lord Sugar's financial partner, in front of the TV crew, you name it. And essentially they told me that my business plan was too perfect. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, what do you mean it's too perfect? Like, surely that means I should, you know, get through and get on the show. And they said, have you ever seen the show? I was like, yeah. And they said, people that get on the show are a bit of a car crash. They know how to, you know, run a business, but they're a bit, you know, messy, I guess, with their decisions and things like that. So they said, you're not getting on. And I was like, what? I'd gone through this whole process. I kind of built in my head that was my angle. You know, before I felt a bit lost. I didn't really know what to do. I wanted to start me a business. My boss put doubts in my head that I couldn't do it. You know, Lord Sugar turned me down. I was a bit lost then what to do. 2 weeks later, a guy that saw the whole process of The Apprentice, is a private investor, contacted me and said, you know, you didn't get on, but I will offer you the money instead. Like, you're amazing. Like, somebody needs to invest in you. So what I just did then is I was like, oh my God, this is my opportunity. I basically contacted Ken Wright, the guy, the director. He was actually leaving the business at this moment in time to go and start working at another company. And essentially I said, will you come with me? At the first, he said no. He'd got this amazing job and lots of money. His wife fell pregnant. Like, the man was settling down. And in the end, he just said, do you know the offer? Does it still stand? I said, yeah. So we went and launched Rise at 7. So I'm going to tell you a bit of a story, because this one's really interesting, that I actually watched on a video on YouTube the other week. So this is a bit of like a story of when there's so much choice in life. So this was in relation to kind of advertising, jobs, you know, what sort of career you should go into. When there's so much choice, but very little time, people default to ignoring. So people default to ignoring adverts on social media. People default to not making a decision on what career they want to go down. So a bit of a story, there was a smoothie brand that launched, and essentially they was really struggling, and they decided they really needed to stand out. So what they did is, instead of going down the smoothie aisle, they put themselves directly in the middle of the milk aisle, so that when you walk down the milk aisle, it goes milk, 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 smoothie, milk, 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 milk. And it's all about standing out. So when you walk down the aisle, you don't just see milks everywhere, then you see the smoothies. So I knew at that moment in time, if I was going to launch this business, I needed something different. I needed to stand out. So I had 2 perspectives of the things that I was good at. I was good at being creative, and I was good at SEO. And I knew that one day there was a fence, and creative is either going to jump into SEO or SEO is going to jump into creative. And none of them did that. Creative and SEO have always been separate disciplines. They've always been very separate. And I knew that one day they would join. So because that never happened, I watched the industry basically adapting. And I thought, that is a market that I could go down. I could create my own path. And I decided to launch Rise at 7, a search first creative agency. So we do both creative and SEO together. Myself and Ken Wright obviously had built up, he was well known, so he'd spoke on stage at Vegas, and he'd like won awards for his work, and the same with me. So he was quite well known just through building up our time at our previous agency. So when we tweeted that we'd joined together, we got, you know, a couple of 100 likes, but 2,000 people came to our website. And at that moment in time, people was, you know, applying saying, I want to work for you, or, you know, I want to work with you. So we started to get clients come in, but I'm talking clients that was paying us peanuts, like not big money, and it weren't enough to cover our salaries. So we was earning, I think, around $2,000 a month, something like that. So that was like both me and Ken Wright together. So that's not really enough really to pay everything else, including bills and all that sort of stuff, and as well as hiring. And this is where it gets exciting. So there was an agency in Sheffield called Uber Agency. They're a design agency, and essentially they had their own amazing office. This wasn't it, because it was honestly unreal, like beautifully stunning. And they had like a corner in the room which was unused. They had 2 desks, and we basically said, we can't afford to get our own office. We don't have the funds for it. Can we go and rent 2 of those desks in that corner from you? We'll keep quiet. We won't bother you. We just need somewhere to work. And they was obviously like, yeah, of course. Like for them, like we paid them like 300 quid, I think it was, just to rent some desks from them. And we just needed help. So they said, yeah, absolutely. Come in and work there. However, this is a quote from what my dad used to say, actually: where there are limitations, you work with what you got. And it was something that he always used to inspire me. I was like, when you have nothing, you just need to use what you've got. So I had a beautiful office around me, and I made it look like it was mine. I Instagrammed the hell out of it. I made sure everybody looked around and thought, oh my God, have you seen, Carrie and Ken Wright's office, Rise at 7? Everyone wanted to work there. Brands saw our Instagram and our Twitter and our LinkedIn, and they was like, Jesus, like they must like be already doing well. I created this kind of like image that we were bigger than we was. We was just 2 people renting a desk in a corner. But that was the power of marketing. I then decided, like, okay, I want to own PR and digital PR as a term. So I started up Digital PR Examples. It's a Twitter community where I share campaigns and inspiration and advice on there. I shared it anonymously at the beginning, but then somebody found out it was me. They basically tried hacking the account, and they was like, oh, this is Carrie that does this. I was like, great. I was trying to do it anonymously, but yeah, it didn't work out for a bit. But I ran this account so much that if anybody was ever to talk about digital PR, they thought about me. They thought about Rise at the 7, so much that now we pretty much own the term. And because of that, I got invited to speak at an event called Brighton SEO. So I went and spoke on stage at Brighton SEO. And this is a picture of the audience. I'm talking hundreds of people came to see me present. And that is like incredible. People like queuing out of the doors, people sitting on the floor. I stood on stage and I was like shaking. I was like, oh my God, this is mental. All because of the hype that I'd built up. I built up this, amazing office that weren't even mine. I was sharing amazing work on social media and trying to get in front of brands. And people started to want to work with us, understand what we're about, and the clients wanted to work with us too. So at that moment in time, when I stood on stage, I was so transparent in how I did what I did, because I knew that clients were in the audience. I was super transparent about how I generate award-winning ideas, how I build links, complete like transparency of screenshots of the sort of things we do. So much that the response on social media was crazy. This is free marketing. People was talking about Carrie Rose. People was talking about, Rise at 7, tagging us in hashtag Brighton SEO. And Brighton SEO is one of the biggest events in what we do. This was free for me. Like this, for a new business that just started up, the hype was building and building. And that honestly, you can't buy. So much that Misguided got in touch with us. That was the moment that changed everything. Misguided had been for a pitch process, meaning they was looking for an agency very similar to us, and they'd already decided which one they wanted to go with. However, they saw all of the hype about Rise at 7 on social media, and the guy who runs the SEO there basically sent us a message and said, I've already decided what agency I want to go to, but you guys intrigue me. Come along, tell me what you're about, because maybe there's something we could do together. That moment, I remember thinking, like, this is it. This is the dream. Like, imagine. However, I only had 2 staff, like just me and Ken Wright. I had no case studies, and I had to go and make it look like I was bigger than I was. So ASOS girl, the girl on the left, the people who don't know the story, it's a really good story. Thea basically shared a screenshot of her getting absolutely annihilated on Tinder, horrible guy that was saying nasty things about her. And she basically said, I was wearing a dress from ASOS and people was calling her horrible names. She looks like absolutely stunning. However, Twitter went crazy about it, like as if like somebody on Tinder would say that to you. ASOS then picked it up and basically put her image on the ASOS website, and it went across all the BBC and everything. She became the ASOS girl. She was graduating from university and she needed a job. And I basically basically spotted at the time, because I actually shared the campaign on my Twitter, and I was going viral myself because of it. So me and her connected, and I said, what are you doing? She was like, oh, I'm studying marketing, I'm just about to graduate. And I was like, well, would you ever join Rise at 7? Like, I haven't got any staff, but do you want to come and join us? And then Will Hobson, the guy on the guy that I talked about earlier, the one that's tried to get me on TV, he basically came along and pretended to be a member of staff. So we went to Misguided's office with extra staff, one that we hired last minute, another that we pretended was us. He didn't work for us, but we made it look like we was. And I actually told Misguided in the end, he didn't work for us, however, he will do if we win this account. But Misguided loved it. They loved the boldness, the brave, like doing something different, so much that we won it. We won it on the spot. So the agency that they'd already decided to go with lost the account, and we won both UK and US, all because of being different, all because of showing how bold we were, and actually, identifying with the people in that room. Misguided staff are very similar to Rise at 7. We're young, we love new trends, we love to try new technologies, and we're not afraid to kind of be out there and bold and different. And that's what we mirrored, and that's why we won it on that spot. So what I did is I ran numerous campaigns perfectly, for what I do. And I shared to the world how I did what I did. Full transparency. I tweeted a long thread of how we got Misguided to rank #1 for dog jumpers. An amazing campaign. And it got 752 likes. I then did a campaign for a client called Park Dean Resorts. We got 1.4K likes just by sharing what I'm up to. So this was my tactic. I needed to build myself as an authority by sharing what I do and really being transparent, because not many marketers do. They keep it as a secret. They're very kind of protective of what they know and how they do it. However, I thought that's the way to be different, is to actually be transparent. Because what I realized is that personal brand was so much more important than anything. I knew that people wanted to work with Rise at 7 because they wanted to work with me. Not because they wanted to work with Rise at 7, they wanted to work with the people. People is what makes a business. Because if you look at Rise at 7's like Twitter account, for an example, 5,000 followers. If you look at mine and Kemrice, we're now on 11,000 followers. People was following us, not Rise at 7. So I knew that we needed to focus on people. We needed to focus on our work, our skill set, rather than just the business as a brand itself. So what I did is I got Thea, Will, and numerous other people which I then hired, because I won these accounts, to basically create as much content as possible and push it out. So content, basically, they become influencers of Rise at 7. We was very loud. We was doing vlogs. We won awards. We did blog posts. We did lots of gifts, etc. And we just created as much content to get out there as possible. So if you go onto my Twitter or my Instagram or LinkedIn, you can see that I have my own vlog. My vlog basically shows the behind the scenes of Rise at 7, running an agency like never before. And I do everything from the wins, the fails, like how we run campaigns, really kind of creating content 24/7, so that whenever you open LinkedIn, whenever you open Instagram, Twitter, Rise at 7 is there. It's near impossible to escape Carrie Rose, to be fair. But that's the marketing tactic that I created. I wanted to really be able to show what we're about and how we do it. So much that I then started to show really behind the scenes of the business. So I actually did a TikTok where, when I first hit, I think it was 12 staff around Christmas of 2019, I think it was. Yeah, I basically took everybody to a mansion to celebrate, and it had a pool, it had like tennis courts and all that sort of stuff. And we all had a big pool party. It was amazing. And I did a TikTok for it, and it went everywhere. It went viral and got thousands and thousands of views. So much that TikTok alone got 300 CVs to my inbox. Everybody was applying to work at Rise at 7. And if I'm completely honest, hiring staff is the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing for any business, is to get staff to want to work for you. Because usually when a business is trying to get staff, the other competitor agency or the other businesses are offering them more money, or, come join us or whatever it is. So that's the hardest thing for any business. So I really needed to create a place that people wanted to work for. We then did work that made us famous. So Jess was just talking about this before. Marmite did a billboard basically where the lid had come off and fell into a car. So we then photoshopped Autoglass in there. We don't work with Autoglass, but I created this, made it go viral. It was across all Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it. And I basically sent Autoglass a message, because Autoglass social team would have been like, who the hell's created this? This isn't us. So I DM'd them and just said, you're welcome. And now Autoglass know who we are. They contacted Rise at 7. And that's just a way to get in front of brands. I did it again with IKEA. So the Bernie chair thing, I basically renamed IKEA's foldable chair to the Bernie chair. It weren't real. It weren't IKEA, by the way. It was just Rise at 7. We created this because IKEA is a dream brand that I want to work with. And that's the way to get in front of them. IKEA's like brand and social team saw this and then obviously contacted us and followed us on social media. So this sort of content works to make us famous. And I vlog about it. I vlog about how to go viral, how to create, you know, some of the best Rise at 7 campaigns. I constantly share the behind the scenes of the business. So much that 3,000 people have applied to work at Rise at 7, but they've sent some amazing applications from people have sent like sneakers, games, cupcakes, pinatas, Instagram filters, you name it. 3,000 people have applied to work at my business is crazy. That's unheard of. People can't even get like 5 applications, never mind 3,000. But this has been the journey. For me, it's been wild. We founded the company in June 2019 and we never stopped winning. We won Misguided, we won Matalan, we then won Cat Kidston and Holland and Barrett and House of Fraser, and then PlayStation and Xbox. PlayStation and Xbox, we actually won on the same day, which was like the weirdest moment of my life. I was like, what the hell? How the hell have we done that? But in our first year, we turned over 1.5 million. That is crazy. So we forecasted to hit 300,000 in our, well, 300,000 was realistic in our first year. We pushed it a little bit and was like, right, if we can hit 6,000, then that's really good. And I actually said to my staff, if I can hit 1 million, I'm taking you all to Ibiza. Well, we hit 1.5 million, so I've still got to take everybody to Ibiza, which I'm really excited about. But at that moment in time, I only had about 12 staff. So taking 12 people to Ibiza would have been, you know, not too expensive, but I have 70 staff now. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to hire a whole plane. Still taking them. I promised them that I'll take them, but because of COVID, we haven't been able to go. So that's coming up. But yeah, this has been the story of Rise at 7. We've won every single time, but that's because of our confidence, the ability to show who we are, what we're about, showing behind the scenes, and really kind of like putting our staff at the forefront of our marketing. So as I summed, 70 staff, we're now at 4 million revenue. I haven't even finished my year 2 yet, and that's crazy. And we're doing that across 4 countries. I feel like I'm a very, very lucky girl, but I know I've worked my goddamn arse off and it's been amazing. So yeah, it's been a journey. And I know that a few of you might have seen this, but trying to get young, hungry, talented people is still difficult despite those 3,000 people applying. And we're still constantly looking for talent across Chicago, across London, across Sheffield. We're no longer just in Sheffield, we're across multiple cities. So I basically launched a campaign to get uni students to quit uni, or, you know, to take a gap year, or when they graduate to come join us. And we've had hundreds of applications. We're still going through them, by the way, and they're all on file so much that when people graduate, or if they do, or, you know, take a year out, we'll be getting in touch with them. But constantly the thing that we're looking out for is just enthusiasm. If you can show enthusiasm, you're wanting to learn, eager to try something different, that's the way to get in at Rise at 7. So the summary of, we look after people. That's the number one thing that I guess we've focused on. We got a great place to work. We train people up. We've attracted applications, like 3,000 applications in 1 year. And we've created a waiting list. A waiting list is literally people waiting to join Rise at 7. There's people on this call, I think, that have applied and still yet to, you know, find out if they're in for an interview and things like that. We've got it so much that we have talent knocking at our door, but we also have clients knocking at our door. We have a late waiting list so much that, you know, we have clients starting to work with us in a couple of months' time because we're just so busy growing as a business. So here's some summary of some learnings. It's better to be different. If there's anything that you can take away, whether that's for your career, whether that's for starting your own business, doing, you know, a campaign, it's always better to be different. There's a saying, is it better to be better or better to be different? It's always better to be different. Use who you are to be a better leader. So for me, I'm very good at creative. I'm very good at big campaigns. And when you run a business, it's very easy to be spread thin across multiple things, from finance to operations to all that sort of stuff. And I basically stuck to, you know, what I was amazing at, running campaigns. And I still run some of our biggest campaigns today. And I absolutely love it, to be honest. And limitations create creativity. I spelled that wrong, but limitations create you to be more creative. So the fact that I only had 2 members of staff, the fact that I only, had a little office in the corner that I rented, it made me think differently. It made me be a bit more bold. And that's definitely a learning that I've taken away. And don't take no for an answer. So I guess I'm quite rebellious as a person, but if somebody tells you you're not good enough at something, or even if I tell you, you haven't got the job this time, it doesn't mean that you'll not get one ever again. So don't always take no for an answer and always push forward. Thank you very much. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, follow me on LinkedIn, and I'm obviously vlogging the source on YouTube, so feel free to subscribe. But yeah, that's the story of Rise at 7. Feel free to ask any questions you like.
Well, thank you very much for that. I'm sure we all really love that. I did have a question, and it kind of relates to what you said about graduate roles. And obviously, aside from the non-graduate role that you're currently offering, do you offer or have any plans to offer kind of graduate incentive roles? So for students who are already in uni, maybe like roles for when they graduate?
Yeah, absolutely. So to be honest, we just have our applications open. So if you just drop us a message, like, don't even worry about cover letters or anything like that. Other businesses might tell you to create, I don't care about cover letters. Just stand out or do something fun, like not in terms of like, I don't know, a lot of people have sent things like cupcakes or whatever, but it's not always about that. It's always just about showing like what makes you. So yeah, we have it open where people can apply whenever they like. We take on work experience, we take on internships. We actually have about 10 people at the minute in the business that are on an internship for a year. So yeah, we're absolutely open to any of that.
Amazing, thank you. We've got a question in the chat that says, "Hi, my question is about how to keep on top of marketing news," and that's from Georgina.
So Georgina, I'm trying to think, get Google Alerts set up. If you don't already know what Google Alerts is, basically just whenever a marketing publication, whether that's Campaign Live, Adweek, or Social Media Today, you can set up Google Alerts for whenever they share an article. So you just put in the URL, so whenever something new comes out, you get it straight to your inbox. That's the main thing that I did when I graduated, so much that when a new industry like thing came out on Instagram, or when a new I don't know, when IKEA did something fun, I was the first to hear about it, and then I would just dig and research as much as possible. So set up alerts and you'll get that straight to your inbox and it'll help you.
Thank you. And then we've got another question from Kerry, which says, "How do you cope with stress and a busy work life?" And Georgina asked, "What's the secret to your confidence?"
So Kerry, the question about cope with stress and a busy work life, I don't know. I don't know how I cope. I guess it's very rewarding. When you work in PR, you can directly see your results. When you work in SEO, you can see the graphs go up and how much more money you're bringing to your clients. It depends really how you find reward. For me, I'm rewarded when I see my work delivering something, when I can see it actually making my clients money and things like that. So that really helps. I'm not going to lie, like working at Rise at 7, running Rise at 7 has been very hard. It's been very busy. Like I've been very stressed and like constant kind of, I don't know, late nights and all that sort of stuff. But I think if you find and only focus on the things that you enjoy, that's one thing that I've definitely learned. I've gone and hired the people in for the things that I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy operations, so I got an operations director. I'm not that great at managing finances, so I got a finance controller. So that really helps. What's your secret of your confidence? Do you know what my secret is? Rise at 7. The reason being is, let me tell you the story because it's a really good story. When I was at Branded 3, Brighton SEO happened, and it was the first time I ever went to that event. And what happened is I went along, I was only 21 and I'd never been before. And I was like, little backpack, kind of like loving life, just going to learn. And essentially I sat in the audience at the back just to go and learn. And some guy was like, "Oh, hi, like, what's your name?" And I said, "Oh, I'm Carrie." And he said, "Where do you work?" I said, "An agency called Branded 3. Like, he thought, no one's would have heard where I work. He went, "Oh my God, you work at Brand 3? I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, can I shake your hand? I've always wanted to work, meet someone from Branded 3. And at that moment, I felt like a celebrity. I was only 21 and I was like, why is Branded 3 that good? So I went back to the agency and I was like, people were shaking my hand because I worked there. And they was like, yeah, Carrie, like, we're quite famous at what we do. Like, we're well known. And at that moment in time, I remember thinking, I work for the best agency in the world. And I that level of confidence came about me, like, if I walk into a meeting, if I walk into a conference, people know who I am because I work at Branded 3. That built up my confidence that much that I walked into, where was it? It was Compare the Market, I think. No, Confused.com. And I was only 21 and I won it like that because my confidence was so high. So what I've tried to do is build the exact same thing at Rise at 7. I've built a business that if any of my staff walk into Netflix, if they walk into L'Oreal, if they walk into any brand and they go, oh, I work at Rise at 7, they already know who they are. So it's all about building a space that makes people confident. Rise at 7 makes me confident. It makes all of my staff confident because they've got the tools and the people behind them to be able to do amazing things. So that's my secret. Go to a company that makes you feel confident because of their ability to do whatever they want to do.
Thank you. And then we've got one more in the chat from Georgina, which says, can you briefly explain what a digital PR intern / graduate does in their day-to-day? And then we've got another from James, who's just turned his camera on as well.
Yeah, of course. Digital PR intern graduate, they do everything from writing content. So whenever you see like a campaign about Misguided or anything like that, they would write the blog posts, they would do the research, and they would pull all the statistics together. So there's loads of places that you go and get statistics for our campaign. So they'll be doing a lot of research, but they would also be sending emails to journalists as well. So they will be speaking to like OK Magazine and saying, hey, we've done this thing with Misguided, do you want to write about it? So talking to journalists and that sort of stuff as well. So mostly it's content writing, talking to journalists and helping the strategists create campaigns. They get thrown on to big brands straight away at Rise at 7. That's like when you go work at other companies, like that's rare. Like whereas we have interns working on PLT, we have an intern running Xbox right now, but that people might think, well, they're only an intern, like surely they can't do that. Trust me, I found that young, talented like students like yourselves can adapt to anything, and throwing them into scenarios like that, of course they have senior people there helping them, training, all that sort of stuff. You don't just get thrown in on your own, but they have that level of support, but they learn so much so fast that now, yeah, we have some interns that have already passed. So you have 12 months at Rise at 7 as an intern, and if you pass, you stay on. We've not had anyone fail, basically, but we actually pass people early on. So we had someone pass the other day and they've only been here 3 months. We just said, yeah, stay on, we love you. So last question, I think there's this one. Feel free to ask any more, but James, what's the most valuable advice you have for someone looking to get into the same career field? Ooh, go... There's 3 things actually. I've got 3 things in my head. Start a blog if you can. Write about whatever you're passionate about. So James, you may be passionate about fashion, travel, pubs. It could be absolutely anything. Football, I don't know. So write a blog and you'll just learn the skills of how to create content, how to then get an audience, how to add keywords into your content and all that sort of stuff, and how to then build a community. If you can start a blog, that's definitely where it's a valuable thing. I have so many people apply that haven't even done that. They've literally pulled pints, very similar to what I did, but yeah, where they haven't even gone and got any sort of experience for free. Or literally, if you have an uncle that is a builder or a mum that runs her own business or anything like that, go and help them create content for their businesses. Do TikToks, do Instagram filters, like use Canva to create graphics. Go and help family members or neighbors create content for their businesses, whether that's for free or getting paid. That sort of experience, like, it just shows that you're enthusiastic to learn. So that's like the second thing. And then the third thing is, if you can get into work experience at an agency, that is invaluable. So a lot of students like yourselves, they often dream to go and work at Disney when they graduate and things like that. I'm obviously biased that I love agency life. I would recommend anybody to go and work in an agency if you can, because you get to work with multiple different brands in multiple industries. Like one day you'll be working on travel, the next you'll be working on finance, next you'll be working on fashion. So you could be working with absolutely anything, but you learn so much. So they're really the three things that I advise. What would you say are the best resources to learn about SEO? God, there's all sorts. If you follow Steve Kenwright, you might find it through Rise at 7, but if you follow Steve Kenwright, he basically shares resources on his profile all the time. But it's things like searchenginejournal.com. They basically talk about everything SEO, and they'll teach you about Pinterest SEO, YouTube SEO, so you can learn as much as possible. But Search Engine Journal is probably one of the best resources that I would recommend for SEO. Does Rise at 7 offer the opportunity to guest write for their blog? No. So the reason that we don't do that is because we have a team of writers for our own blog anyway, and we like to create our own content because we are quite like authoritative in what we do. We like it to come from us and our voice. However, if you do have any sort of interesting data that you want to share and go, hey, if you ever write something on this, like feel free to use this data, then we're happy to use that as well. What would your advice be to someone planning to start an agency after wrapping up studying? Start freelance. Do freelance if you can. Work and freelance at the same time. So do some freelance, because then you learn how to build relationships, build up your personal brand. When I say build up your personal brand, use social media to tweet, share what you know, just get stats from, Search Engine Journal or from Social Media Today or Adweek. Look at campaigns and share them. Build up your personal brand on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, so much that people see you as a person to follow. A really good example of this is a girl called Lucy Appleton. You might know her on TikTok. She's called Lucy Appleton 21. She's built up her personal brand, not in marketing, not in social media, but on TikTok, because she's so passionate about women confidence, and people know her as the TikTok girl, all about women's confidence. She basically chose one area to focus on, very similar to what I did. I chose digital PR. That was like the one word that I wanted to own, and I chose it and went down that path. So if you decide social media is your thing, if you want to get into digital PR, find as many digital PR campaigns as you can and talk about them on Twitter, talk about them on LinkedIn, because people will start to follow you and see you as an expert. So yeah, I'd advise you just look at building up your personal brand, but also try do bits of freelance if you can. I know that's really hard to go and find freelance, but it always starts from somewhere. I started freelance by helping out family, friends, creating content for social media. So start there and it'll build up. I think that was there any more?
I think that's it from the chat. Does anyone else have a question? I think Jules has one.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was a really inspiring chat, and it's also like highlighted the effectiveness of personal branding. I think
100%, yeah.
And I was just gonna just a quick question. If you have your eye on any particular brand that you want to be able to work for in the future, like, is there one particular one that you'd be like, wow?
I still haven't worked with IKEA and I really want to. So IKEA is one of them. Ann Summers. I'd love to work with Ann Summers. Ann Summers are very like bold and brave in how sexy they are in their content and things like that. And Ann Summers has always been a bit of a dream brand. I actually wrote a list of 30 brands that I want to work with before I die. Like on the back of a where did I write it? I was in an Italian restaurant and I wrote it down. And I basically used that when a client came to me. So when Misguided came to me, they was on that list. So I went into Misguided and I was like, you was on my list. And there was like, they obviously liked that passion, that enthusiasm. So yeah, Ann Summers is one of them. Netflix, I'd love Netflix. They'd be cool. Apparently they're actually a nightmare brand to work with. So I've heard. So a bit of advice. The bigger the brand, the nightmare they are to work with and for. So yeah, it's not all about working for big brands, if that makes sense. Like I would love to be the agency that creates the next PLT or the next Gymshark or something like that. That'd be fun. But yeah, they're my dreams.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think that's it from everyone. You've got a few messages in the chat just saying that they were really inspired by today and that they really enjoyed the chat. And I just wanted to say thank you again for agreeing to do this. Like, I know quite a few of us were like fangirling a little bit, being like, oh my God, like, it's Carrie Rose.
Oh, bless
like creating that name for yourself.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if anybody did apply for the graduate role and they're yet to hear back, even if you find yourself in a different position, get back in touch, because I'm not gonna lie, we had hundreds of applications, so much that a lot of them got lost. I'm not saying that yours has got lost, because I actually had to hire someone to pull them all together and put them in a big folder. But feel free, don't ever feel like let down when you don't get a reply or anything like that. That's my job, to make sure you do get a reply. So I'll try my best to make sure you all do, but don't be afraid to get back in touch about, hi, I saw you talk today. I really want to do Like, don't be afraid of doing that.
How would you recommend people get in touch? Because I know some people on here, like you said, have applied. So would that be by email or LinkedIn?
Yeah, so get in touch via careers@riseat7.com. And the reason being is it doesn't get lost through that email. So it makes sure that 100% gets in, because somebody's managing that like, as a job. So that means it doesn't get lost. If you apply on Twitter, it can get lost easy. So that's what I mean by, like, there's so much going on Twitter. It's so hard. It's so easy to get lost. However, if you really want to stand out, do something, whether that's, I don't know. Did you see the guy that got Stephen Bartlett? He wrote him a Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
So like, that's a way to, like, he's shown that he, his skills, or, go do something in PR, like get some press coverage or anything like that, or write a press release and show like how you could do it, or come up with an idea for Rise at 7. Like, maybe pick one of our clients and go, I've come up with a campaign for you. Like, things like that is so much valuable, because then I can say, oh yeah, you're already doing that sort of thing, and I can imagine fitting you in the business. So yeah, they're the best advice, really.